Good morning to every one of you. We are the Group 10 at ang topic na tatalakayin namin ay ang controlling. Our objectives for this lesson is to know the importance of controlling, steps in the control process, types of control, components of organizational control systems, strategic control systems, and identifying control problems. Sa videong ito, tatalakayin natin yung unang tatlo: importance of controlling, steps in the control process, types of control. Mayroon tayong tatlong senaryo dito at kayo kailangan yung alamin kung ano ang naging problema at isulat ang inyong sagot sa ilalim sa comment section. Scenario 1. A news report indicated that the fire which destroyed the 800 million Super Ferry 7 luxury ship on March 26, 1997 was caused by illegal connections made on its electrical system. If this is true, the losses could be attributed to inadequate managerial control. Scenario 2. The tragedy that happened at the Ozone Disco in March 18, 1996 clearly manifested management's lack of control over the day-to-day operations of the firm. Even the failure to detect earlier violations in the building code spells lack of effective government control. Scenario 3. The management of a telephone company could not stop the unauthorized use of lines assigned to many of its subscribers. Customers become angry when they are billed for calls they never made. Now, after these three scenarios, let us talk about controlling. Controlling refers to the process of ascertaining whether organizational objectives have been achieved. If not, why not? And determining what activities should then be taken to achieve objectives better in the future. Ang controlling ay tumutukoy sa paninigurado na ang goal ng organisasyon ay natutupad. Kung namang hindi ito matupad, bakit hindi? Dito rin umiisip kung paano mapapabuti sa hinaharap ang mga problemang ito at kagad ito masusolusyonan. Sinisigurado dapat ng isang manager na hindi nagiging out of hand ang mga pangyayari. Sinisigurado din na dapat kontrolado niya ang mga bagay-bagay at hindi mauwi sa trahedya. Ano nga ba ang importansya ng controlling? Kapag ang controlling ay naisagawa na maayos, tutulungan nito ang organisasyon na makamit ang kanyang sinet na goal sa isang mabilis at epektibong paraan. Deviations, mistakes, and shortcomings happen inevitably. Ang mga pagkakamali ay hindi naiiwasan. Kapag ang mga ito ay umuusbong, dagdag gastusin lamang mga ito. Pero ang pagkakaroon ng proper control measures, binabawasan nito ang mga negatibong epekto na dulot ng mga ito. An effective inventory control system, for instance, minimizes if not totally eliminates losses in inventory. Another example where the importance of controlling may be illustrated as it is applied in a typical factory. If the required standard daily output for an individual worker is 100 pieces, all workers who do not produce the requirement are given sufficient time to improve. If no improvements are forthcoming, they are asked to resign. Why? Bakit kailangan silang tanungin para mag-resign? Kung hindi natin i-control na dapat lahat ng employee ay mag-produce ng 100 products, makikita mo na pababa ang sales ng isang company. Kasi bakit? Kung hindi sila mag-i-improve, paano din mag-i-improve yung sales ng company? Kung pababa yung performance nila, di pababa din yung sales ng company. Kaya kailangan natin na in-control na dapat nasa standard levels o kailangan umaabot sa quota ang mga production. This action will help the company keeps its overhead and the other costs at an expected level. If no such control is made, the company will be faced with escalating production costs, which will place the viability of the firm in jeopardy.
Next, we have the steps in control process. Okay, the first one is establishing performance objective and standards. In controlling, before mag-accomplish ng one task, it is very important na clearly define at naiintindihan muna ang mga objectives at standards. Example of such standards and objectives are: number 1, sales targets, which are expressed in quantity and monetary terms. Second, production targets, which are expressed in quantity or quality. Third, worker attendance, which are expressed in terms of rate of absences. Fourth, safety record, which is expressed in number of accidents for given periods. And lastly, supplies used, which are expressed in quantity or monetary terms for given periods. Once na naset na yung objectives and standards, measurement of the performance will become easier. It is important to remember that different organizations have different standards. Like for example, yung mga construction companies ay mas focus sa mga project completion dates, while yung mga mechanical or chemical manufacturers naman ay focus sa pollution measurements. After maset yung standards, you need specific ways to measure how well you're meeting them. Take note that bawat standard ay dapat mayroong sariling method of measurement, ensuring you can track and evaluate performance effectively. The second one is measuring actual performance. It is very important to measure the actual performance kasi there are instances na magkaroon ng problem. And kapag na-measure yung actual performance, mas madaling magawa ng adjustment. Measuring tools are not all the same. They differ from organization to organization. Since meron silang kanya-kanyang objectives, some firms, for instance, will use annual growth rate as standard basis, while other firms will use some other tools like the market share approach and position in the industry. The third one is comparing actual performance to objectives and standards. Once yung rate to actual performance is determined, i-compare na niyan ito sa kung ano ba ang gusto niya ma-achieve ng organization. For example, yung actual production output ay mako-compare sa target output. Another example is that if a construction firm agreed to build a 100-kilometer road in 10 months, they might expect to complete at least 10 kilometers each month. To ensure that they are on track, managers should check the progress regularly, perhaps monthly or weekly if possible. This helps ensure that actual performance aligns with the planned goals. The last one is taking necessary action. Yung purpose ng pag-compare ng actual performance sa desired result is para kapag mayroong difference, nagkakaroon ng chance for management to fix any issues or make changes to get back on track. This way, they can take corrective action to make sure the final result meets the goals they set. If in the illustration cited above, the management of the construction firm found out that only 15 kilometers were finished after 2 months, then any of the following actions may be undertaken. Number 1, hire additional personnel. Number 2, use more equipment, or number 3, require overtime.
So we are now in the 3 types of control. The first one is the feed-forward control, the second one is the concurrent control, and the third one or the last one is the feedback control. So dito muna tayo sa feed-forward control. When management anticipates problems and prevents their occurrence, the type of control measure undertaken is called feed-forward control. This type of control provides the assurance that the required human and non-human resources are in place before operations begin. So basically, yung feed-forward control is actually the input or nasa planning stage pa lang tayo dito wherein pinaplano pa lang natin yung isang bagay is nagtitake na tayo ng control actions para ma-prevent yung isang problem na pwede mangyari in the future. And also yun, ginagamit natin din to is para syempre maging smooth at maging maganda yung kinalabasan ng ating output. Kasi when it comes to business talaga is meron at meron tayong mga may encounter na mga problema. That's why kayo, if meron kayong plano na magpatayo ng business nyo in the future, kailangan nyo is you have to plan it very carefully muna talaga. Paling gawin nyo is predict nyo na yung mga pwedeng mangyaring problem in the future, and ngayon mag-take na kayo ng mga corrective action nyo. Para kung sakali man in the future, kung na-establish nyo na yung business nyo and magkaroon man kayo ng problema, is yung problema naman na yun is hindi na masyado mabigat and hindi na masyado marami, which is ayun na masosolusyonan nyo agad. So yun, yung sa feed forward control talaga is sa planning stage pa lang talaga is nagtitake na tayo ng control bago pa man yung implementation. Here's the example. The manager of a chemical manufacturing firm makes sure that the best people are selected and hired to fill jobs. Materials required in the production process are carefully checked to detect defects. The foregoing control measures are designed to prevent wasting valuable resources. If these measures are not undertaken, the likelihood that problems will occur is always present. So dito, as we can see, yung manager dito is pinagplanuhan talaga niya maigi bago nila i-establish yung kanilang firm. Like yung mga workers niya is mga qualified at suitable talaga dun sa job na binigay niya sa kanila. And also yung sa second one naman is yun, chinek niya din yung mga materials if may defect sila. Siyempre para ayun, maiwasan yung aksidente. And the last one is nag-take siya ng countermeasure, which is ayun, hindi siya nagwe-waste ng mga pag-consume dun sa mga variable resources nila para siyempre hindi sila malugi. So, ayun sa feed-forward control. Bali, yung sa feed-forward control talaga is nasa planning stage pa lang tayo is nagtitake na tayo ng mga control action or corrective action natin. So, ayun, kaya nga tinawag din natin tong feed-forward control is actually sa una pa lang talaga is pinagplanuhan na natin ito na maputi. And ayun, nagtake na tayo ng mga corrective action para ma-avoid yung mga instances na hindi na dapat na mangyari in the future dun sa isang business. So, the next one is the concurrent control. When operations are already ongoing and activities to detect variances are made, concurrent control is said to be undertaken. It is always possible that deviation from standards will happen in the production process. When such deviation occur, adjustments are made to ensure compliance with requirements. So yun, dito naman sa concurrent control is yung ginagawa naman dito is tinitignan natin yung actual performance ng business natin, wherein yung manager dito is on the spot, chine-check niya yung process ng business nila kung meron ba siyang kailangan i-take na corrective actions para masolusyonan yung problema during the process. Like for example, kung meron ba siyang kailangan idagdag, i-alis, or i-adjust dun sa kanilang problema na i-encounter during that process. So dito yung concurrent control is actually the during, while yung before is the feed-forward control. And tinawag natin yung before is because yun nga, dito is pinaplano pa lang natin yung isang bagay and hindi pa naman talaga natin ginagawa. While yung sa concurrent control is yung during, yung dito is na-implement na yung business, kaya nga yun during the process, yun is, yung business dito is nagpa-process na, wherein yung manager dito during the process is nagtitake na siya ng corrective action. Kaya yung tinawag itong during, yung sa non-concurrent action. Here's the example. The manager of a construction firm constantly monitors the progress of the company's projects. When construction is behind schedule, corrective measures like the hiring of additional manpower are made. So dito is makikita natin na yung manager dito is he constantly monitor yung progress ng kanilang company's projects. And yun nga, kung sakaling mga merong projects na nasa behind schedule is yung gagawin ng manager is mag-hire daw siya ng additional construction worker para ayun matapos agad yung kanilang ginagawang projects at masakto dun sa schedule na kung kailan talaga ito magawa. And the second one naman, in a firm engaged in the production and distribution of water, the chemical composition of the water produced from various sources checked thoroughly before they are distributed to the consumer. So yun, same lang dun sa kanina, yung ginagawa ng manager dito during the process ng distribution of water is, yun, nagtitake na siya ng mga corrective action nga para yun, masolusyonan agad yung mga problems. And the last one is the production manager of an electronics manufacturing firm. Inspects regularly the outputs consisting of various electronics products coming out of the production line. So yun, same lang yung kanina is yun, nagtitake din siya ng corrective action during the process. And the last one is the feedback control. When information is gathered about a completed activity and in order that evaluation and steps for improvements are derived, feedback control is undertaken. Corrective actions aimed at improving future activities are features of feedback control. Feedback control validates objectives and its standards. If accomplishments consist only of a percentage of standard requirements, the standard may be too high or inappropriate. So dito naman sa feedback control is yung ginagawa natin is tinitignan naman natin dito yung output. Bale yung sa output natin dito is dun tayo nagbe-base kung meron ba tayo naging problema or kailangan ba nating improve yung ating business, which is yun nga magte-take tayo ng corrective actions, like yun nga kung meron tayong kailangan idagdag, i-adjust or alisin dun sa business natin para lalo pa itong ma-improve. So ayun sa feedback control. An example of feedback control is the supervisor who discovers that continuous overtime work for the factory workers lowers the quality of output. The feedback information obtained leads to some adjustments in the overtime schedule. So that's the end of our reporting. Thank you for listening, guys.